Good evening. Happy Friday. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My favorite day of the week. I'm so happy. Thank you for joining me. As always, I appreciate um, all the feedback I've been getting from my friends and stuff. And folks have been. Oh, please excuse me. It's Friday, so I will be having a couple of these. I love these. They're so tasty, especially this cherry one. Amazing. So yeah, a lot of my friends and folks that I know out here, they've been telling me to talk more about LGBTQ stuff because a lot of folks have told me that they find that type of content interesting. So I'm going to talk more about it. I have a lot of stories. So it's story time. This is going to be a long video because I'm old. Well, in the words of Alyssa Edwards, which is fitting for this video, these words are fitting for this video. Baby, I'm not old, I'm established. So, here we go. Gay stuff. Once upon a time, I graduated from high school. I graduated from Warner Robins, Georgia, and I joined the Air Force. Um, this might be a series of videos because I can't fit 20 years of gay stuff into like a 20-minute video. I'll be here all night. I mean, I will be here all night, but I ain't gonna be talking about this all night. I got things to do, places to be, people to see. So anyway, graduated from high school in 2002, and I always knew I was gay, but I was in the closet my whole life until I was 19. But we'll get to that later. I signed up for the Air Force before I even graduated from high school because my dad was encouraging me to join the Air Force. And all these years later, I'm so glad I did that because I'm still benefiting from that decision to this day. So I thank all the people who pushed me to do that. But anyway, joined the Air Force, went to basic training in Texas, and then eventually I got stationed in the UK. I got stationed in England, and that's when things got interesting with this gay stuff. Um, so I was stationed in the UK at a little Air Force base called RAF Mildenhall, and as soon as I got there, I was very homesick because I was always a mama's boy my entire life. I was 17 when I got there. So I was, I've never been away from home for. I had never been away from home for a long period of time. So getting stationed in the UK was a big deal for me. I mean, I was away from home in basic training before that, so that was like 6 weeks, I think. And then I got to go back home after that. No, went to basic training, then I went to tech school, and then finally got to go home for a couple weeks. So basic training and tech school was the longest period of time I was away from home. That was probably like 3 or 4 months. Went home for a little bit, then I got stationed in England. In England, everybody I worked with was super nice and friendly, from what I can remember. Lived in the dorms. But I have wanderlust by nature, so I wanted to go explore, and I asked a lot of questions, and eventually I learned how to get to London. The first time I went to London, I went with a group of friends, a group of other young Air Force people, And it was interesting. I don't actually remember much from that first trip. I just remember ditching all the folks I was with because I wanted to go to the gay bars and stuff. And I don't remember if I ever found them. I don't think I ever found those places. I remember going to a lot of straight places. This is 2002. Okay, so forgive me if I don't remember everything. But that first trip was kind of lame. But then after that, I had learned how to get to London on my own, which involved calling a taxi to come pick me up from the front gate at the base and getting to the train station in a little town in the UK called Ely, where they had a train station. So, taxi to the train station, and then the train would take you to London to King's Cross Station. Gosh, I was 17 doing all this, maybe 18. But I always asked a lot of questions. I would always ask the old British civilians who I worked with where to go, how to get around, and they always gave me the information I was looking for. They were always funny, had a great sense of humor, and so once you get to the train station at King's Cross, one of the British guys I worked with told me about a hotel in London, close to Marble Arch, off of Oxford Street, pretty much in the middle of London, called the Victory Club. And the Victory Club, the only people who were allowed to stay there were like members of NATO, so like U.S. military, European military people. And it was clean. I never complained about that place. All the rooms were clean, not very expensive, right in the middle of London. They had a breakfast in the mornings or something, but I never ate there because I don't know what was wrong with me. I was always particular about eating in foreign countries. I know that sounds ignorant, but that was my mindset back in those days. I was like, if it ain't McDonald's or Pizza Hut, I don't know what. And in those days, I could eat whatever I wanted and not gain a pound. I was 18 years old. So anyway, I knew how to get there. I knew how to get there. I knew how to find a place to stay. I would book, no, I would call to book the hotel rooms ahead of time. And then after that, baby, it was a wrap. As soon as them paychecks hit, let me tell you, I was overdrafting. I knew how to get to London, and I was going to London almost every weekend because it was just so much fun. And keep in mind, I grew up in a small town in the country of in Georgia. I'm from Middle Georgia. Ain't no gay stuff to do over there. In the '90s, I felt like I was the only one. I felt like I was the only gay person in the entire world growing up. So to go from that to like one of the, if not the gayest place on the planet, was extremely shocking to me. It was very shocking, but I found my way up in there. No pun intended. I where was the first? So they had these little red books for tourists that had maps in them. That had maps London. So map. There was no apps, y'all. There was no apps. There was nothing. I had a flip phone. I could text people. But to get around, I remember using a map. And I had dial up internet in my dorm room, so I'd research where all the gay bars and clubs were and circle them in my little book. And I would follow the map. That's how I found the hotel. I had to use a little map book. And it was a wrap after that. I know I used to go This was probably the first gay bar I ever went to. I think it was Gay bar in Soho, London, off of Old Compton Street. It's still there. I want to go back one day. I see people posting stuff on social media about it, and it was so fun. It was so fun. In hindsight, it was very dangerous for me to be walking around with. I used to withdraw my entire bank account whenever I would go there. Just have a pocket full of British money, and the exchange rate it was horrible for me because I think my paychecks every 2 weeks were like $600, and when I would exchange my funds for British money, I think it would leave me with like $350 or maybe almost 400. So that was my spending money. The bars were free to get into. GAY was free to get into. And it was a lot of fun. I would just go there, order me a little beer, and just find a corner to stand in, and I would meet people. Um, and then there was a, a club maybe a block or two away from GAY bar called it was still GAY. It was they were still part of the same company or group. Um but it was a bigger place. It was like an actual nightclub. Y'all, legendary, legendary. These kids these days don't know nothing about no clubbing. You could first of all, it was free if you had a flyer. And the flyers were everywhere. I wish I had one. I have scans. I think I've seen Google scans of them. You can do Google image search of all these GAY club flyers. And if you had the red one, you can get in for free. So all my friends that I met and people I hung out with, they were always looking for a flyer, the red flyer, because it was free with the flyer. If you didn't have the flyer, you had to pay £5, which is probably like close to $10. Uh, you'd get in, and there was, I want to say thousands of people in this place. It was like it had like 3 or 4 levels. Friday was the most fun because on the main dance floor, they played nothing but like 70s disco and 80s music. So that's how I learned about all those old school artists. Um, Rick Astley. I mean, of course, they played Madonna. Everybody knew Madonna. But ABBA, all these old school songs, and they were so fun to dance to. We would dance all night, get all sweaty. You couldn't even really get drunk because you'd be dancing so much and sweating so much. And you'd meet so many people. You'd just bump into somebody gorgeous and start dancing with them. Maybe start making out. Maybe go home with them. And nothing bad ever happened. Nobody was on their phone. Like, there was no iPhones back then. There was no apps. And it was such a good time. The second level had like 90s music. So 90s. So you walk up in there, and the second level, you got tired of the 80s, the 70s. You walk up to the second floor, you'd hear Robin S. Show Me Love, Hathaway, Baby Don't Hurt Me, all that stuff. It was. I wish I had video. I used to take a little digital camera with me and try to film stuff, and I had all that stuff on a old compact desktop computer, and I had all that stuff saved on there. Photo bucket, it's all gone. That computer died probably 15 years ago. Crashed. Photo bucket, I lost. I lost that email, the username and password. I can't find none of this stuff. All I have is the memories, and it was such an amazing time of my life. There was another room, I think, but I can't remember what was going on up in there. Leave a comment if you were there, if you remember, because GAY Club circa 2002, 2003. The dude who used to run it, his name was Jeremy Joseph, and it was amazing, legendary times. Um, I met uh, my very first trans friend named Star at the bigger club. But, excuse me, pardon me. Um, I didn't know she was trans at the time. She was transitioning when I met her, but I didn't know. I just remember seeing the most uh, beautiful, effeminate at that time guy that I had ever seen, and we started dancing, and that was the first person. No, that's the second person I ever had sex with. No, yeah, the first person I ever had like full blown sex with. Full blown. My God. Star. But gosh, I'm all over the place. Um, before we get into all that, I just remember there was another club down the street. I'm a horrible storyteller. Please forgive me. There was a another club, maybe like a 10-minute walk away or 15-minute walk, called Heaven. And now that I'm saying it out loud, that was the first spot I ever went to, was Club Heaven. God, never thought I'd be talking about this on the internet, but people need to know the history. Um, Especially these young gay people, y'all need to know what went down back in the day. Club Heaven, I went up in there. It was £20 to get in there. That was the first spot I ever went to when I went to London. And there was a little lesbian at the front door, a little blonde. What do you call it? Not regular blonde, platinum blonde lesbian. She was not one to play with. And if she could tell you were straight, or if you looked like a straight couple, she would not let you in. She'd be like, "I'm sorry, not tonight," and turn you away. And if you had a problem, she had like three big old black bouncers behind her. You didn't get that lady no trouble. So I was so nervous my first time going there. I was like, "Oh my God, am I actually going to get in this place with my little Kmart clothes from the country, not knowing what's going on about nothing, nothing." Fresh from Warner Robins, Georgia, in the middle of London, trying to get up into this popping club. The line was long. I had to pee, and so I get up to her. I was next, and she looked me up and down, and she said, "Welcome to heaven." And she let me in. I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Okay." I felt so guilty. I was like, "Oh my God, if my mom or family members knew I was here, they'd probably be so ashamed or mad." So when you get into heaven, it's still there too. I've seen some stuff on social media about it. You walk down a long flight of stairs, and when you get to the bottom of the stairs, that's where you pay to get in, £20. So basically, I was paying $40 to get up into the club in 2002. And then you could check in. You could check your coat if you wanted to. I remember checking my coat a lot of times back in those days because it was cold. It was cold, but you didn't want to be up in the club carrying a coat, so they had the coat check. And if you lost your coat check ticket, you'd be at the club all night waiting for everybody else to get their coat before you could get yours. That's crazy. That never happened to me, but that happened to a friend of mine. So Club Heaven was amazing. It had a big main dance floor where they played EDM. I don't even think it was called EDM back in those days. Techno or whatever. But it was so fun. People had glow sticks. And it had it had three levels. So the main dance floor, they had all that electronic music packed. The second floor, they were playing like hip hop and R&B. So like back in those days, I think like 50 Cent, up in the club. 50 Cent, Sean Paul, that Beyonce album had just come out. Um, whatever album she had back in 2002, because I remember she was all over the billboards and everything. And so yeah, Club Heaven was fun, legendary. I used to meet people there. Club Heaven was the first that first night I walked up in there. I was walking around looking like a puppy. I remember I walked up to this area where you could overlook the dance floor, and some random hot guy just grabbed me, pushed me up against the wall, pulled my pants down, and started sucking my penis. And I'm like in shock. I'm 17 years old, maybe 18. And I'm thinking to myself, is this really happening right now? People are walking by, looking. And then one person walked by and pushed his head as hard as they could, and he choked. And he got up and did like this or something, and he was about to walk away. And some security guy came up to us, and he was like, "What the fuck, mate? Are you serious? Are you bloody serious right now?" And I'm like in shock, not knowing what's going on. He's like, "Don't do that again, mate." And I'm like walking away, like still in shock. So that was my first sexual encounter with another human being ever. Um, so I used to go there a lot. But GAY, the club, was the most fun for me. And going back to how I met Star, my first trans friend, met her, ended up hooking up with her. Again, she was not trans at the time. I did not know she was trans. I'm gay. I'm attracted to men, typically effeminate men, bottoms, and that's what she was presenting at the time. Uh, and then she had a twin brother named Charlie, who was not trans but looked very effeminate too. So I met a pair of gay twins at the club, and we became good friends. Me and Star, we would hook up and stuff, but that stopped after a while, and then we just became friends. We became good friends. Charlie too. I was friends with Charlie for many, Star and Charlie for many years. I used to go visit them. We used to go to the clubs all the time. They were very popular, so they knew a lot of people, and it was fun. It was so fun. They had a friend named he went by many names. One of the names I can recall is Alex or Johnny. He went by Alex or Johnny, and all the details about his backstory were scarce. But all I knew about him was that his mother was a retired actress, and they were very wealthy. And they went on trips all the time. They went here to Vegas. I never thought I'd be living here. I remember they used to talk about going to Vegas all the time. This was 2002, 2003 ish. And they were very wealthy. And all Charlie did was go out to dinner. No, excuse me, Alex, aka Johnny. All he did was go out to bars and fancy dinners and things like that. He didn't have a job. He would get nose jobs. He was probably 5 foot nothing, blonde, had a little blonde hair, and he would always dress very posh, like a nice suit, like colorful jackets, kind of like that stuff that RuPaul be wearing, but like on a little white boy. British, born and raised in London, talked very fast, and he always had like a little cane with him, it looked like a little pimp cane with something like a little diamond or something on the top, looking like the Riddler. That stuff the Riddler from Batman Returns was having. And he was fun. He was just always fun to go out with and to have drinks with and to chit chat. He talked about everybody. He talked about Star and Charlie all the time, all up in everybody's business. He used to call them. Star and Charlie were from Scotland, so they were Scottish, but Alex, aka Johnny, was British, and he would call them when they weren't around. He'd be like, "Oh, they're nothing but Scottish trash." Jerry, they're nothing but Scottish trash, Scottish trash. But you don't have nothing to do. You shouldn't be hanging around people like that. But he was hanging with them all the time. And they would always make fun of him too. They'd read his ass whenever he was around. To oh, Alex, they'd be talking shit about him. Um, I knew some other people too back in those days in London, but off and on. I knew a French. I don't remember his name. A French guy and a French girl I used to hang out with, and they were all part of the little London clique that I met and who I used to hang out with back in those days, and it was fun. Thank goodness nothing bad ever happened with me. I would meet people, but nothing. I could never date anybody seriously back in those days because I was in the United States Air Force. They had the don't ask, don't tell policy. I lived on the base. I didn't live in London. I lived like 2 hours away. So it was kind of bittersweet because it would be like my little escape on the weekend to this fantasy world where everybody was pretty and fun and you could have the time of your life and meet all these people from all over the world. I met Polish people, Russian people, Australian people, people I never would have met if I stayed in Warner Robins, Georgia. And it was a lot of fun, and I've never forgotten those days. I wish I still stayed in touch with those people, um, because I can't find any of those people I used to hang out with. You're talking about 20 years ago. There was no Facebook or none of that back then. I think MySpace started coming around eventually, but I don't remember when. I remember I found Star online somewhere, and we talked on the phone. But this was probably about 8 years ago, 7 years ago when I was married, and I don't know what happened. We lost touch again, and that's life. Nowadays, it's a lot easier for folks to stay in touch with folks, but I hope they're doing okay. They were nurses. Star and her brother were nurses. Star had a little teeny tiny, I'll tell y'all, teeny tiny studio like 2 blocks away from Big Ben. So when I would spend the night over there, and sometimes there'd be like 8 of us sleeping in that room because no, I don't think nobody had no money for no hotel or nothing, and it was just a place to sleep after the club, and it was like a block or two away from Big Ben, and I remember every hour you could hear Big Ben. It was close to that hospital across the bridge from Big Ben. And I was like, is this real? Like, I'm in the middle of London hanging out with some cool people. I could hear Big Ben going off every hour. And those were some of the best days of my life. A lot of fun. If you're a young person and you have the opportunity to travel, I say do it because that really helped me figure out what life was about. Seeing these professional people living their lives in a big, amazing city like that, and it motivated me to want to be a successful person because up until that point, I did not understand what the point of going to school was or getting an education was. I thought it was just torture. But when I met these folks, they really inspired me and pushed me to better myself. And they were sexual health nurses, so they were always talking to me about protection and to be careful what I was doing. And I'm very thankful that I met them. So hopefully maybe one day I can reconnect with them. We'll see. But London is amazing. I want to go back one day. You can get direct flights there from here. I'll go back. I went back. I went back in 2006 when I got out of the military, and I visited all of them for like a month or something. And we hung out and we did the same things, and we always did, and caught up with them. But I was This was after I got stationed in Montana, and I left Montana and I went to go to England to visit all them. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, Jerry, it's like you never left." And we would go to GAY, and then when I went back in 2006, there was a GAY bar, which was the one I used to hang out at, the GAY Club at the Astoria. That's no longer there. And then there was a third one called GAY Late. So they had like three spots when I went back, and we had fun. And when I got out of the military, I moved to Atlanta because I could not live in the town that I was from. I just could not do it. I moved to Atlanta, and Star came to visit me when I got set up in Atlanta. I was homeless for like a week. I was sleeping in my car. I had a Chevy Blazer at the time, and she came to visit me, and we hung out for a little bit. I think she came for like 3 weeks or something, and my life was very volatile at that time, so it wasn't very fun for her because I was unstable. I was looking for work. I had a place to live, and then I had just started dating this guy, my first boyfriend. Um, and then we parted ways. I remember the last thing she said to me was stay in control, because she could tell that relationship that I had just started getting into when she visited was not good. She could tell it was not good, but I was so young and dumb in those days, I didn't know any better. But she was right, and I hope all those people are doing well. I'm gonna end this video here because I'm gonna make another video starting off when I got to Atlanta and all those shenanigans. So thanks for listening. Wow, that was an interesting trip down memory lane. But this was part one of the gay adventures. So y'all take care. I'll see y'all in the next video. If you like this stuff, like it, share it, subscribe if you want to. And I'll see y'all in part two of the back in the day gay shenanigans. Did I leave anything out about the London days? Let me see. No, it was just fun. Nothing messy, no drama. It was just fun. That's all I remember. It was just a lot of fun. A lot of Kylie Minogue, Madonna. Just fun. So y'all take care. Bye.